Alton is a wonderful historic river town. Was heavy industrial for several generations. As the heavy industry has faded out, we've become more of a tourist and antique center and service industry.
She's been in Alton for a long time. She's been there since her husband came to work for one of the corporations. She had a professional life before that. She's a college graduate, of course, from Lindenwood here.
I worked for a couple of years in St. Louis, then married and moved to Southeast Missouri, then back to Alton, where we were going to stay a couple of years, and that was 43 years ago.
Mostly, I think you would have to say her career has been as a Superior volunteer.
There are not enough dollars to pay for everything that needs doing, so if we don't have volunteers, it won't happen.
She currently serves on 3 boards at Alton Memorial Hospital: the Hospital Board, the Health Services Foundation Board, and the White Cross Auxiliary Board.
I have always been fascinated with healthcare, but I did not have the bent for medicine. So this is a good way to be involved. And there are excellent people there and doing good work, and it's an important work that I think needs to continue for the health of the community. We're currently involved in a revitalization of the hospital with the replacement of a 70-bed tower. The capital campaign is now underway, and I'm heavily involved in that because I'm the fund development officer for the foundation at the hospital. So it's an exciting time.
She's continued to make a difference throughout her career.
Riverbend Head Start and Family Services is an agency that's been in Alton for about 55 years. It was formerly the Family Service and Visiting Nurse Association, and I've been president of that board twice, once when it was FSVNA and now as Riverbend Head Start.
That's a wonderful program that gives little people a chance to start on an even keel.
The Alton Community Service League is an organization of women, mature women I guess I should say, who are dedicated to area beautification and service to the community. The most interesting thing we're doing of late is just purely a hospitality project for the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Volunteers simply appear on the days that the boats dock at Alton, and this would be the Mississippi Queen and the Delta Queen, the big paddle wheelers that are coming in.
And we go to the riverfront at the crack of dawn and hand out apples and maps and advice and do some last-minute services for people coming off the boat. We had one family that they were relatives of Elijah Lovejoy, whose monument is in Alton.
And of course, there's not any public transportation that goes in that direction. The cemetery is up on the hill above the river. So Gay got them in her van and took them up there.
So we saw to it that they got driven up to the monument to see it.
When she sees the need, she tries her utmost to see that it gets fulfilled.
Volunteering is self-rewarding. Nobody does it because they have to. They all like it or they wouldn't do it.
There's no doubt about that my background in pediatric nursing evolved into the starting of Annie's Hope. We serve grieving kids, and so in my experience as a nurse, when kids would not survive, it was, how do you do that as a family? What do you need when you have to survive the death of a child?
Annie's Hope is a wonderful organization here in St. Louis that helps grieving children on all levels. We have a summer camp program that brings together over 100 children who have lost someone significantly. They go through traditional camp programs, but they also do grief-related programs. Annie's Hope also has a Horizons program, which is anticipatory grief, and that's for the whole family. If they know someone is going to be dying, Annie's Hope will come in and work with the entire family at their home and help them through this process.
Kids do grieve, and that's a really important thing to know about children because they don't do it like adults. They do it in the way that they need to as they're developing. Their heads are different, the way they respond to the world is very different. So they grieve differently, and that's a major emphasis of Annie's Hope. We recognize that, and we approach them from their level of development and where they're coming from.
Becky knows that grief can have a tremendous impact on any of us, but especially children.
I was motivated to start Annie's Hope just because there was an unmet need in the community. And I always had a place in me that was willing to listen and witness the pain of others. And I thought, I can do that.
When I first met Becky, I was just so impressed with her and her vision for the organization, and I knew I wanted to be part of it.
The biggest thing that we're working on right now is a home, a permanent home for Annie's Hope. And right now we use different spaces, and the demand has grown and grown. As we get the word out there, we know that there's over 4,000 new grieving kids every single year, and there are more and more coming to us.
I know Becky is so dedicated to her family, her boys, her husband, her friends. She's just a really wonderful person, and all of us are blessed to have her in our lives.
I think it's important to volunteer in the communities because we need to give back. There's always people that are more fortunate than we are, but there's always people that are less fortunate. And we each, no matter where we fall in that continuum, we all have a responsibility to help one another.
My father was a doctor, and he did so much charity work. On Saturdays and Sundays, he would go to there were orphan homes in Louisville, Kentucky, and I always wanted to go with him. And he would let me go when I was 11 and 12. And when I came out of one of the orphan homes, I was crying. And he said, "Soni, what are you crying about?" And I said, "Some of those children don't have good shoes. They're wearing shoes that are all torn. Can I give them my shoes?" And he said, "Yes, go home and get them." And we did, and we took him some shoes. That was the first thing, about philanthropy I knew. It was a good feeling.
Soni once told me that she really believed in children and families, and her late husband Myron, believed in the environment. I believe that Soni has merged those two philanthropic interests. This is homage to her late husband Myron for her to support environmental causes. If those environmental causes have something to do with family and children, all the better.
Forest Park is important because it's a beautiful park and it has to be preserved and loved, and it is a beloved park. And I did Turtle Park because I wanted it fun and I wanted it to be pretty, but I wanted it to be a playground for children because my big thing is children.
When she opened Turtle Park, this was something that was great for her because she could go and sit and watch children playing on these wonderful sculptures.
The Scholarship Foundation is wonderful for students who need scholarship money, and they all, I think it's 98% repay after they're out of school, after they have their jobs. Many are prominent doctors and lawyers and dentists and teachers and everything. It's just wonderful. My scholarships go to non-traditional students who are single women with children, or single men without families, and it's been wonderful. And I hear from my students and we meet, and it's very gratifying.
She has friends from all generations, and she understands how important the next generation of people is, just to the health of our community, to the health of the world, really. Wherever Soni is, there will be Soni support.
I find it very fitting that Ronnie is being honored in the area of social responsibility because social justice and human rights are really the very core of who she is as a person.
I truly believe that we all have choices in our life, and to choose to volunteer for the community is one of the best choices that anyone can make. When I was president of the American Jewish Committee, I represented the Jewish community in being one of 90 ecumenical leaders to meet Pope John Paul when he came here. I went to Germany on a trip and was able to meet with foreign ministers in Germany. It's just been an amazing adventure.
She is very involved with the Jewish Federation of St. Louis, the Jewish Community Relations Council, and cultural leadership.
Jewish Federation in St. Louis is the umbrella organization for not only the Jewish community, but being a United Way agency, takes care of many more in our community, and it truly is from cradle to grave.
The Jewish Community Relations Council is one of the beneficiary agencies of the Jewish Federation of St. Louis, and it really is the advocate arm of the Jewish community, both on a national and international basis.
I was the first president and am now the immediate past president of Cultural Leadership. Cultural leadership, understanding through the African American Jewish experience, is a year-long leadership program that teaches high school African American and Jewish students how to be change agents in our world.
I know Ronnie will tell us all that she receives so much more from her volunteer work than she gives, but I know that the lives that she has touched are countless, and I know that in turn, they too will pay it forward and spread the goodwill and the social responsibility that Ronnie has imparted to them.
I was diagnosed with lung cancer. I'd never smoked a day in my life. And I really believe that God threw me off the treadmill, which is how they found my lung cancer when they did a chest x-ray and a rib x-ray, and instead they found stage 3 lung cancer.
When I learned of Ronnie's illness, it really threw me for a loop, I have to say, and I was feeling really very badly about it. And she was the one that made me feel better about her situation.
I had a choice to make in terms of whether I would continue my active volunteering or step back. And after reflection, I realized that I can't step back. It's who I am. I thrive on what I do.
And I really think that that speaks to her strength and character. You know, to be able to think of others when she's going through such a difficult time in her own life, I think just speaks volumes of who she is as a person.
The time and effort and energy that we give is negligible compared to the benefits that we receive.
Well, I met Jean. She was responsible for my coming to St. Louis 13 years ago. She was on the Webster University Board of Trustees, and when the board interviewed me, that's when I met Jean.
I became immersed in Webster University and what they were doing and the leadership and the fact that they make so many things happen and make them happen so fast. And I love the idea that they were doing this international schools.
She is a person that you want on your team because she is so sincere and committed to the things that she thinks are important. And those things are generally important to society.
It's exciting to see things happen. I think that's what I've always loved to do, is get something started that you can make something happen.
She is committed to various causes.
Well, I've always loved dance, and I was a member of Dance St. Louis board for a long, long time.
Her own background as a dancer certainly led her to be a part of our new dance studio, which is named after her and Wells.
My husband and I decided to do that ballet school for Webster.
Jean called me up one day and asked me to be involved in the foundation that she was setting up, a family foundation to combat ALS.
Hope Happens was a foundation that was created when my son Christopher was diagnosed with ALS in 2001. As we watched him body disintegrate, his mind was fine, and he had all these wonderful ideas of what could be done, and he decided the problem was the system and the way research had been done, and what we really needed to do was create collaborative research where you could combine like ALS, Alzheimer's, MS, Parkinson's, all these diseases, and share.
And unfortunately he passed away, but his dream is carried on, and it's through Jean and her drive that has created this foundation, which now is offering hope to millions of people, literally around the world.
How's the world going to get any better if nobody tries to add a little something? I mean, how are we going to make any progress if people don't care?
Jean has been the driving force behind the foundation, which then made a link with Washington University and their School of Medicine.
Washington University Medical School has given us a space on Scott Avenue, and it's called the Center for Neurological Research, but the main part of it is the Hope Center.
Jean is a standout lady who is the epitome of beauty, inside and out.
A lot of things I'd like to see happen in St. Louis, and I'm thrilled with all the things that do happen. I mean, there's so many people that care, and every time anybody does, it just adds a little bit of hope to the world.
In 2003, we started Camp Jumpstart. It is a weight loss camp for kids probably a misnomer, because it really should be a healthy lifestyles camp. That's the category that we should be. And Camp Jumpstart is where we take a multidisciplinary approach, where you talk about who they are, who they want to be, how do they reach their full potential, but along those lines also you have to get their attention. And when you get their attention, you start to have them believe in themselves and realize that they are worthwhile and that they do have a purpose. What we need to do is then figure out who they really are, and that's what they learn at camp, so that they're able to sit down and figure out what are they good at, what do they hope and dream, and they can try those things out in a safe environment. And that's what we created at Camp Jumpstart, was a safe environment.
She's very passionate. I mean, she wakes up, she eats, everything is Camp Jumpstart to her. She told Tom that she has this great idea, and she knows what's the best thing to do. Honey, I need all your money. And they, I believe, cashed in their 401k, and that's where the money came for the initial venture. She saw the need for these kids, and she was very unselfish, and she just put forth the money and the efforts, and you know, she dedicates her whole summer to being at that camp.
We started Camp Jumpstart at an abandoned church campground, and the joke was that someday it's going to be very nice and you're going to want it back. And I'm afraid after 4 years of every day working hard on it, we did make it a nice camp, and that's exactly what happened. Our worst fear came true, and we no longer had a place at Camp Jumpstart in Southern Illinois. But another opportunity opened its doors, and that was here in St. Louis. And the Living Well Foundation is what I started so that all children would have the possibility to experience our proven strategies. And now it's called the Living Well Village. And again, we're back to rehabbing things every day.
I just think Jean has a level of commitment that's above most people, and a level of passion that I truly respect, and that she truly made a difference in my family's life.
I love what I do with Camp Jumpstart when you see the amazing things that kids who wouldn't make eye contact with you suddenly now will initiate conversation, and they're excited and they like who they are. That's an honor and a privilege to be able to be a part of that. And it's simply setting up the right environment and allowing kids to know where those boundaries are, and then experiencing who they really are.
Well, I think it's important for everyone to volunteer. We get so much from volunteering, and to be able to put that back into the community is just a wonderful thing.
She's always had that concept in her head that it's important to give back, and she really has a big heart.
I really can't imagine life without doing some kind of volunteering.
I met Linda Lee in 1987, actually, when she started Assistance League of St. Louis.
Assistance League is a nonprofit volunteer service organization that is part of a national organization.
Each chapter of Assistance League is autonomous. So all the money raised in St. Louis stays in St. Louis.
And we operate 5 philanthropic programs.
The first one that we have is Operation Hug, teddy bear program, where we give teddy bears to abused or traumatized children. And our little bears ride on ambulances and fire trucks, and they're in emergency rooms of hospitals, and we give really hundreds of teddy bears every year.
Operation School Bell is the biggest project, and we provide new uniform clothing to St. Louis public students and several other districts as well.
We have My Own Fun Stuff. That's a project where we pack 6,000 kits of quiet playthings every year, and these are taken to area hospitals where they're passed out to children waiting in emergency room situations.
Through our program Steps to Success, we provide new athletic shoes to about 800 students.
Then we have Project Rose, which is our newest project that serves women, abused women living in shelters. We're serving women in 4 shelters now who have had to escape abusive home situations, and often they're with their children. So we serve these women by providing gift bags for them, because many times they come to the shelter with nothing but the clothes on their backs.
The feedback that we get from all the agencies we serve is just wonderful.
Linda did serve as president of the Volunteer Association of the St. Louis Symphony, and she served also on the board of directors there. And then she went on to serve as president of the Association of Major Symphony Orchestra Volunteers.
Music is my other love, and I really am happy that I've been able to be involved in that over the years.
Boundless energy. I don't know where she gets all that energy. But I've talked to her about it and I've said, Linda, what do you think now? Is this going to be it? She said, I think I can go till I'm 80.
I grew up in rural Illinois, small town called Breeze. The sign always said famous for friendliness, and I guess I took that to heart. One thing I've always tried to do my whole life is to smile a lot.
She's very energetic, she's a go-getter, she's fun to be with. She just likes having a good time, doing what she's doing, and she excels at it.
4-H was a wonderful thing. It was a thing that my family did together, and I always remember the pledge even to this day. And the words of it are, I pledge my head to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, my health to better living, for my club, my community, my country, and my world. And I believe that's something I've carried along with me and tried to do my whole life.
I met Michelle probably 15 years ago through Boy Scouts. Her son was 3 years behind mine in the program, and she was a Weeblos Den leader at the time.
Scouting is, to me, it's in the urban areas, the city areas, what 4-H was in the rural areas. It's youth development, character development, trying to instill, right and wrong, good and bad, serving others, character development for youth. I got involved with Girl Scouts first with my daughter, did a lot of arts and crafts, learned to love the outdoors. Then I got involved with my son, joined Cub Scouting. Then when my son graduated to Boy Scouts, he and his whole patrol were like, Mrs. McBride, are you going to go to Boy Scouts with us? And it's just been incredible. From Boy Scouting, I then went on to Venture Scouting, which is what I still do today.
The Venture program is a program through Boy Scouts where boys and girls are both Boy Scouts. It's for children after they graduate 8th grade until their 21st birthday.
To watch these little kids grow into young adults, to now be adults graduating from college, is just phenomenal.
It's incredible watching a kid grow up and watch them grow and attain the self-esteem and the self-motivation to do these projects and stuff. It's fun.
I have had a full-time job forever, and last year I took the crazy jump into politics and I ran for office, and just March 1st I became St. Charles County Collector of Revenue.
The reason that she takes her own vacation time to go with the Scouts is that she sees it as a real important step of bringing kids from teenage into young adulthood.
If people learn to give of themselves, and if you've got 5 people worrying about you instead of just you, you've got 5 great ideas, and it's not just one. I think volunteering is a way to recreate in society some of what we've lost.
I grew up in a small town in southern Arkansas, about 1,200 people. My parents still live there, and I think it was a wonderful place to grow up.
Her parents are wonderful people. I think they taught her that if you're lucky enough to have a good life, you need to give back. And Vicki is very engaged in literacy. That's extremely important to her.
Literacy is my baby, just because of the days when I was growing up and my mother's influence. I still think that on spring break, which of course I obviously don't have anymore, and during summer vacation, you should spend the whole summer in the library.
Her mother is a school teacher and taught her that how important it is for everyone to know how to read.
Literacy Roundtable is essentially a clearinghouse of organizations that are dedicated to helping people learn to read. If you're having difficulty of any sort, you can go there and they point you in the direction. They provide the resources for you to learn to read. And it's primarily for adults, but there is this new and I think much needed interest in making sure that children, very early on, are strong readers.
I think the 2 most important things to Vicki are her piano. She's a very, very accomplished pianist, and her books.
Well, I started playing piano when I was 7 years old, and I still play now, but I don't play as much, obviously, as I did when I was little. For one, I don't have a parent saying, you must practice every day for an hour or two. If only I lived with my mom and my dad, I think I would probably play the piano full time.
But I think now, because she's so involved in our community, she hasn't had that much time to practice.
I think there's a thriving community of good-natured, genuinely compassionate people. And so it makes it easy to become involved because they inspire you.
When she moved here, she just began immediately helping whoever needed her.
I think I'm doing just what so many other St. Louisans are doing, being involved in the city and the neighborhood where they live.
I know when Opera Theater has their gala, they often ask her if she'll be the mistress of ceremonies. She's also on the Jazz St. Louis board. She was appointed to the panel to choose where the money goes in the National Endowment for the Arts.
You think this stuff is free? You just get to walk around and take advantage of all the great things in life and not give back, not ensure that someone else has the same opportunity or perhaps one even better. I think that's just what we have to do on a spiritual level. That is part of why we're here.
One lesson I learned was from my mother at the age of 11. She taught me, because I came home one day and I was telling her about a young girl that was in my classroom, you know, a classmate. And she told me, she said, Ruth, don't look down on anyone. She said, always look for the good in someone. And I think that's what stayed in my mind, and that's why I chose the field in which I work in. Always reaching out to help somebody, because there's good in everybody.
She's obviously a very genuine person in terms of her desire to want to help people. Working at Human Development Corporation, that is the mission of the organization, and she, of course, as the head of the organization, embodies that in everything that she does.
The Human Development Corporation of Metropolitan St. Louis was chartered to help the less fortunate individuals, and we service over 100,000 individuals each year.
She currently, of course, represents the organization out in the community, spearheads a number of educational and social service activities in terms of helping people with utility assistance, job training, and she's constantly out trying to solicit more grants, more opportunities, and more assistance for people who need help for themselves.
One of my personal, I feel, greatest accomplishments at the Human Development Corporation is to have taken over the reins as the first female, and a lot of people stress African-American female, and lead it in a positive direction.
I know she's proud of the work that she does with Delta Sigma Theta, with the Coalition of 100 Black Women, with the St. Louis Public School System, with the Gateway Classic, with the Crisis Nursery, etc., etc. She's very proud of her work outside of the agency because she does that on her personal time.
Volunteering in various capacities can have a great impact on what the future may be.
She quietly does what she does throughout the community without a whole lot of fanfare, a whole lot of attention. She has no ego whatsoever. She just simply goes in, sees a need, and tries to make sure that that need is taken care of.
The advice I would give young women of today is to pursue their education and to also look for the good in others and give of themselves. There's always somebody sitting back there that needs your help. And if you can, reach back and pull them with you.